Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for the Cuckoo's Fiancee, chapter 102. When we last left our heroes, Erika gave both Nagi and the audience a brief primer on what exactly the M1 is, and it's basically a performance competition. It's very vague in the way she describes it, but pairs have to come up with an act of some kind. And so Erika ends up inviting Hiro and Shion to the house so they can all practice on their individual performances. Shion reveals that he already knows that Erika and Nagi are engaged, and that's only briefly touched on before they just all kind of move on. It's really weird. But we get to see a little bit of the acts that each pair is planning. Nagi and Hiro try to work on this helping hand sketch where Hiro acts as Nagi's hands. It goes poorly. And Erika brings back the icon, Erika the rapper. It's hilarious, and she's not going to do it for the performance. So they're both groups are kind of stumped as to what to do. And Hiro brings out this DVD of a past performance from the 80s. And when they put it in, they find out that the winner that year was Erika's mom. And that's where we leave off. So with that said, let's dive right on into the 102nd foul. You know that wasn't me, right? And our picture here is of a young Ritsuko at the entrance ceremony at Megurogawa. I'm guessing her first day of school. And in the background, we see someone who looks like a young Souichirou looking at her. I'm guessing it's the first time you ever saw her. Erika's mommy is a former M1 champion. But just who did she win with and how? I will say, I can normally slide daddy here as being a sort of rich girl cliche that Erika speaks in. And I can understand hypothetically that mommy here is working in the same way that daddy is. But for some reason, mommy just that doesn't sound right in my head. I don't know. Maybe I knew high schoolers when I was in high school who still called their dads daddy. I didn't know anyone who called their mom mommy at 16. That doesn't sound right. But anyway, we open right where we left off with Erika still sort of the same line that ended last chapter. Isn't that mommy? Also, for a recording filmed in 1983, that sure is some fucking widescreen right there. But yeah, it is Ritsuko. And Hiro reacts, you mean this is Umino-kun's real mom? Again, disagree with your definition on real there, Hiro, but okay. And Shion's oh right, you guys were switched at birth, right? Again, how does Shion know that? The engagement thing I could see, right? The engagement thing, they're not exactly subtle. Maybe he picked up on it eventually. But the switched at birth? And there's that line last time, let me find the line, the really, really weird Shion line, where he says, it's only because I know about your situation that I even exist. Which is just a really weird line that I don't understand at all. I don't know. There's something really weird going on with Shion right now. I don't know how he knows that. But Nagi's not paying attention to that. No one's really paying attention to how weird Shion is right now. As Nagi just looks up at the TV, and he thinks this to the young Ritsuko. And this, with an image of the present day Ritsuko, how can that be? And Hiro turns over to Erika. How can you tell, Erika-chan? And Erika tells her, Mommy's always looked like this in her old photos, so it left quite the impression on me. I always thought it was strange how she's so different from now, and wondered why she never smiled. And yeah, we do see though that the Ritsuko of the past is frowning, which isn't the case now. She was sort of having a laugh, even in the before and after thing that Nagi pulls up. She's cackling in the after photo. But anyway, Nagi thinks, just what in the world happened to her? And then the announcer calls in, well then, we have a sudden last-minute entry. It's Psyche Ritsuko-san from Class 3E. She's the girl who's never been caught smiling. The woman in the iron mask. Just what kind of performance does she have in store for us? But also, hold on, if Chapter 100 made a whole deal over Nagi not being able to back out because everything was already set in stone. How does Ritsuko just, like, wander into the last minute? Also, she should have a partner, given how the rules of this competition work. Maybe it's just, like, it was a little bit more lax in the 80s, and now, you know, like they said that this was, like, a 50-year tradition, and this is, like, 37 years ago. So maybe only, like, less than 15 years into its run, it was a little bit more lax, and now that it's been going on for decades, it's set in stone or something. Anyways, might be important, might not be, but we also learn Ritsuko's maiden name is Psyche, so if that becomes important, just kind of keep that in mind, I guess. But anyway, Erika just gets on, bad-mouthing her right off the bat, and Hiro comments, is that what they call Showa energy? Which I guess the joke would make sense if you lived in Japan, but I don't get it, so I don't know. And she just points out Souichirou in the crowd. Amanos Souichirou-san in Class 3E. And Eric is just stunned. Wait, that's Daddy! Just like I kind of pointed out in the cover photo. And Nagi comments, so both of them went to our high school? Which again, there's just something about that whole bit that feels kind of weird. That feels like, Souichirou is so wrapped up in mystery, I believe, just about anything about the man. But the fact that, like, that's never been brought up is a little weird. I don't know. Again, Souichirou is, like, the weird guy I kind of want to know more about. And her entire performance is just, I like you. Would you please go out with me? Is Ritsuko asking out Souichirou. And Souichirou is just stunned as the narrator goes on, what a surprise! Just what is the meaning of this? A sudden confession of love? And Eric is also stunned. Mommy, for real? And Nagi's kind of blushing there. And Souichirou just calls out, I'm sorry. And the feed cuts off. Huh? Is it over? I guess. Okay. So, just when I was bringing up Souichirou is such a weird character that, like, we know nothing about him, here's another thing we know nothing about. Like, he just shuts her down. And I'm curious, what kind of story is there? You know, is it sort of the kind of cliche, somewhat problematic, but except now gender swapped? She, like, wears him down until he says yes. Or where my mind first went to was like, is that does he have a fiance? Is my question. Because everything in this series seems to revolve around arranged marriages. Does Souichirou, first of all, did Souichirou build the hotel company himself, or was he himself a hotelier? And if he was a hotelier, does he already have an arranged marriage? Because what would happen if Souichirou had a fiance and broke up with her to get with Ritsuko, is you're left with this really interesting parallel between the Seigawas and the Amanos, right? Because you have in the Seigawas the arranged marriage that worked out, right? The arranged marriage where over time the couple came to love each other and it was wonderful, and it took them many, many years to realize they actually loved each other, but they do, and now they're kind of finally, after decades, having their, like, honeymoon phase. And then you have the Amanos, which, if I'm right, and Souichirou does have a fiancé, it's the exact opposite. That arrangement didn't work out, and now Souichirou is married to Ritsuko, which is the exact opposite of what would happen if Nagi were to get with either of the two families' respective daughters. If Nagi gets with Erika, he is following through on the arrangement and finding love between that partnership, much like the Seigawas. If he gets with Hiro, he's breaking up an arrangement and finding a true romance, much like the Amanos. And also, if Souichirou is from an arranged marriage, that didn't work. Or if he had an arranged fiancé that he broke up with to marry his wife, why would he insist on Erika being in an arranged marriage? Right? I don't know. again, Souichirou, there's just so much to him that we don't know, and I want answers eventually. But anyway, Nagi and Erika are left very uncomfortable by what they just saw. And also, that did not help with the M1 at all. But they go to a fast food place. And they're finishing their food. And Erika says, Mommy said she'd be home from work soon. And I guess they're all going to talk to Ritsuko about whatever the fuck happened at the M1 in 83. Hiro then says, great! There's so much I want to hear from her. I want to know what happens after the end of that video. And Shion's just thinking, who would have thought Erika-chan's parents were not just alumni, but M1 champions at that? And Nagi sort of like needles into Erika. So is that why Amanos-san got into our school through the back door? Rude. I took the interview and passed like everyone else. And Hiro just laughs. So you didn't take the test, huh? Which I think is sort of getting at the idea of like I don't know much about how the school system works in Japan, but I remember there was that bit in MHA where like a few members of Class 1A got in through like the interview program, I think because they were rich, right? Like Todoroki and Yaoyorozu both did that, I think. I think that's the same kind of dichotomy that we're looking at here. But anyway, I think this is Shion's line. But that means the urban legend came to pass, doesn't it? And Nagi thinks, huh? Oh no, this is Hiro's line. As the waiter comes in right then, your desserts, which is like a random little interlude there as Hiro just talks over the waiter. Unless the waiter is right about to be Ritsuko in disguise. I'm gonna bet that. Anyway, Hiro goes on. Even though she was shot down in the video, the two of them still ended up getting married, right? And Nagi realizes that's right! Which, you know, given his infatuation with Hiro, definitely kind of excites him. But Shion thinks, I'm as curious about how they got together as the next guy, but Erika-chan's mom works in television, right? Couldn't we maybe get some idea of how to win the M1 from her? I mean, given what her win was, I'm not sure you can really do that. Unless you're gonna, like, confess to some rando in the crowd. And Erika's just, right, we can do that! And Hiro teases her, you forgot? And then I guess we go to the actual Amano house? Like, not the shared house, like the real Amano house. Because this is Shion's reaction. Whoa! This is your house, Erika-chan? You have a driving range sitting on prime Tokyo real estate? And a tennis court? And Hiro asks, you've been living in such a mansion all this time? Well, I mean, not really since the series started, but I guess she means like before the series started. And Erika is just taking this opportunity to play with her dog for the first time in a while. Not really. We have other houses too. And he's just, that's not the answer I was expecting. Then they hear the keys open, and Erika calls, Mommy, welcome back. And Ritsuko sees them. My, you have friends over? Welcome. I think it'd be a little weirder to see Erika here, given that she doesn't technically live here anymore, but okay. Anyway, as Ritsuko opens up a can of beer, Erika asks, so anyway, what I wanted to talk about. I had no idea you were going to our high school, let alone that you're in the M1. Interestingly, she's using like a bit more of a present tense than I would expect there, which is probably nothing, and I'm probably focusing on meaningless drivel there, but whatever. Ritsuko's just like really downing that beer. Anyway, Erika goes on, this time, because the four of us are going to be participating, we were hoping to get some tips on how we can win. And Ritsuko just sort of finally finishes her drink with a little sigh. Nagi thinks, is she even listening? And Ritsuko takes a moment and looks up at the four of them and asks, you know that wasn't me, right? Can the Amanos stop being so fucking weird? What the fuck is going on in this family? And Hiro and Shion are just stunned. Huh? Then who? But Erika gets on to her. Come on, Mommy, be serious. And Ritsuko, already a little drunk, complains, what? Where's the fun in just up and admitting it like that? And Erika tells her, stop turning everything into entertainment. And Ritsuko just shouts out, everything is entertainment. Life is entertainment. And Nagi goes to like question Erika, is she drunk? This is par for the course. And Ritsuko just like leans back. I'm getting drunk. Yeah, Nagi's like, come on, let's stop this. Ritsuko then confesses, like, I guess she was just lying. It's not some sort of, like, technically true or, the woman in the iron mask isn't the me I am now sort of thing. I don't know. Alright, I guess I can tell you a little bit. It was back in my senior year of high school. And we have this sort of flashback with her asking Souichirou, you want to blow up the culture festival? That's a thing to say. That's not a thing you could have said in the 21st century. That would have gotten you arrested if you said that in the 21st century, at least in the States. It's a good thing this happened in the 80s. But Souichirou sort of nods, yup. And Ritsuko sort of looks at him a little, like, confused. And then asks, what do you mean? I'm talking about the M1. I want you to do it with me. And Ritsuko just goes on, I don't understand. And Souichirou then says, I want you to confess to me and get rejected. Okay. So it's not an arranged marriage. It's an act or something? And he says, you're a prim and proper heiress, aren't you? Well, while I'm well known, I'm also flat broke. Okay, so all of my earlier theories, that whole engagement parallel I set up was just completely wrong. He's broke. Which means that, like, because if she's an heiress, she's probably an heiress to, like, a TV company or something, given that's the industry she works in. Which means, like, she has this highly profitable TV thing going, and so Souichirou just goes into an entire other industry just, like, for kicks or something. Anyway, Souichirou goes on, normally it'd be the other way around. A penniless boy gets turned down by the rich heiress, but if we switch the roles of the boy and girl, don't you think it could be interesting? And he slams her desk. In other words, the sheep makes the wolf turn tail and run. Okay, that's certainly a thing, I guess. And Ritsuko just, like, turns back to whatever book she was reading. I see. I'll play your game. And Souichirou just exclaimed, really? The grand prize is 10 free meals at the cafeteria. I won't be needing those. Really? Which, we're seeing kind of an echo of Nagi and Erika here. Down to Souichirou, much like Nagi, desperately wanting those 10 free meals at the cafeteria. Ritsuko goes on in the present. At the time, I couldn't really be sure why exactly I answered the way I did. But come the day of the event, when we flash back to the 83 M1, I like you. Would you please go out with me? We delivered our lines as per the script. And Souichirou declares, I'm sorry! And the school is just stunned. And we sure did blow up the festival. The announcer from earlier goes on, unbelievable. Something unthinkable has happened here. The pauper turns down the princess. Which, again, plays right into the metaphor that Souichirou was setting up earlier. It was a huge success. But despite that, and Souichirou's just stunned, huh? For some reason, I cried. And we see Ritsuko in the past genuinely weeps at being rejected. Which I don't know. Is there more to their history than the little bit we get right here? Because it's weird to cry because a boy you've never really talked to before rejects you. But I don't know. I think this is later on. I'm assuming this is Souichirou. I'm such a petty dope. I'm really so sorry. Just sort of upset at, like, making Ritsuko cry. And Souichirou goes on, I know, even if it was just an act to get the crowd going, doing things that way was sure to hurt somebody. I'll give you 2 meal tickets and the grand prize, so please forgive me. And Ritsuko's just silent, even though, like, she should have 5, right? If there are 10 and you both did the work, she should have 5, right? At like bare minimum, we should be starting with 5. Then 3 tickets? But Ritsuko stops him. That's not it. I enjoyed it. I've been bored all my life. And we have our money shot here of Souichirou kind of blushing as Ritsuko blushes and just laughs for the first time in high school, from what we can tell. This was the first time I ever had so much fun. But we can also sort of see, now that I'm looking at it, the sort of way this echoes into Ritsuko's present in a way, right? Like, she has the earlier line when she's drunk, everything is entertainment, life is entertainment. And this sort of was a very sort of meta event. You know, the event was the proposal, and sure, it was staged, but it also was sort of meant to be real life, and also kind of was real life, as Ritsuko, I think, suddenly realizes she has feelings for this boy. I don't know. There's definitely some echoing going on with this and everything we've seen of Ritsuko in the past 20 chapters. Anyway, this was the first time I ever had so much fun. And present-day Ritsuko goes on, he was the one who taught me the joy of living. It was inevitable that I'd fall in love with him. And we see the sort of like picture taken, Showa 58 M1 champions, Ritsuko and Souichirou, these like sort of robes, sharing a trophy and like smiling. A fresh exchange between the ones who made him. Next time, Nagi has a change of heart toward his parents. I must say, parents in quotes always gets me worried with this series because I'm hoping the parents in quotes there refers to the Amanos, as there's a lot of mystery around the Amanos that could make Nagi have a change of heart, and also they didn't raise him, so it feels weird to call them his parents. I'm hoping it's not, also because like he loves the Uminos, so having a change of heart towards the Uminos is sort of weird and not good. But anyway, enough of my larger worries of like Cuckoo's worst habits. This chapter is fun. And it's also like it really is the first time we've seen Souichirou as like, we've seen more of Souichirou than just the mysterious kind of asshole we see sort of bothering everyone in the present. Which honestly kind of makes his present actions all the weirder. You know? Like, he clearly was a nice, genuinely good dude as a kid. At what point did he become the kind of asshole we see in the present, who like tries to set up Nagi and his sister, or whatever the hell he's doing to Erika at the start of chapter 100? Let me go back to that scene real fast, because it's just, we have, I know already it's gonna be a bit more time. I'll definitely fulfill my promise, okay? And then Souichirou tells her, "Don't let me down, Erika." And she winces, and that's kind of it. And that's just a weird bit. That's just a weird little bit. Like it definitely fits with the Souichirou we've met to be sort of weird and unknowable. But given how the next time we see Souichirou after that is this kind of, decades ago flashback, back when they were young and Souichirou wasn't such an asshole or whatever the fuck is going on with this man. Because all the discussions of Souichirou is sort of my problem with a lot of the second half of Ranking of Kings, to go on a bit of a tangent. How so many problems were just like, I don't know what the hell was going on with Moranjo half the time, because the show held on to that secret way too long. The same thing is kind of going on with Souichirou. I can't really talk about Souichirou without butting up against the fact that we know so little about him. And there's clearly a mystery there. And I just, for the life of me, don't know what it is. Why is he doing the things he's doing? What's the thing with Erika? Why tease Nagi into, Nagi Sachi? There's so much weirdness there. But still, plenty of fun stuff here. I genuinely like getting to know more about them. We've not reached the Moranjo thing where the whole show is being, dragged down by a mystery that should have been answered already. We're nowhere near that point. But anyway, there's a lot of fun to be had here, and I'm hoping this will lead to, given that blurb for next week's chapter, I hope we might start to get an inkling of what Souichirou's deal is. Because there is something there, and the more we learn about him, the more I'm convinced there is something there. Even if for the life of me I could not tell you what. So yeah, all in all, fun chapter getting to see the Amano parents when they were younger. Just a lot of good shit here. And I'm excited to see where this new information is going to lead us in the future. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. Do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!